Hello, everybody, and welcome on the Lights on Data show. Today, we're going to talk about how to measure your data governance maturity. We're going to talk about data governance maturity models with none other than Sharad Varshney, the CEO of Oval Edge. Sharad, thank you so much for coming back on our show and addressing this very important topic.
Thank you, George. Thank you for having me. Love to discuss about more about maturity model. It's fun.
It's really one of my passions and expertise as well, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Again, keep on learning from you. And I do have a question for the audience as they're coming in. Please let us know, where are you coming in from, and do you have a data governance maturity model? Have you looked at one? Are you interested in one? Have you heard of it? What questions do you really have about data governance maturity models? We're here to also answer your questions, so please don't be shy and ask away. So, Sharad, why don't we start with really the basics and what are maturity models overall?
Okay, so there are multiple maturity models, right? So what's the like why we need a maturity model? Let's answer that basic question first. It's a measurement technique,
Hmm.
or to measure your ability to govern data, right? Where you are in terms of like comparative to other organization, maybe you can say, or maybe where you are in terms of your data governance maturity. Um, Most people, if you do not, some people, just like a standard for ISOs, the quality standards, so the data governance also have this maturity model where you are. Right? And then it comes down to various versions of it, and there are again every company, major organization kind of create their own way of maturity model. I know that IBM have created one, which is they also go level 1 to level 5 or level 6, I think.
Right.
Then there's a Gartner maturity model which comes up, their way of maturing the data governance. The Gartner actually only consider the data literacy aspect into the maturity model, not that much the quality aspect of it. But that's the the one part of that is there. Then we created our like a progressive data governance maturity model at Oval Edge. We are coming up with Oval Edge Academy. The objective is like progressive data governance, means that how can you progress with small level of data, take one piece of data and then grow further and further and further. So that is the mechanism we are working on, the progressive data governance, and we are telling client how to do data governance, rather than boil the ocean to start everything and kind of becomes very difficult. That's the mechanism we are coming up with progressive. Now, in that, we have divided this into multiple areas as well, like literacy, quality, and access management. And you can measure your ability of govern the data in all three areas in progressive data governance maturity model, as well as overall. Then you get an overall score. Uh,
Perfect. I'm going to ask you a little bit more about that. I just want to let people know that you also have an article on this. If people go to overledge.com and on your blog, you can read more about data governance maturity models and the Oval Edge one, and you can also download and take this maturity model questionnaire and assessment and kind of see where you are placed. So I highly encourage you to check it out, and we'll bring it up again later on for sure. But something else that I wanted to add on to what you said about what maturity models are, data governance maturity models are really, it's to me, it's also a way that we have to see where we were yesterday as an organization in our data governance endeavors, where we are today. Is there an improvement or not, and where do we want to be tomorrow, and how do we get there? I think it's a very helpful tool to guide us towards that.
That's absolutely true. You're measuring against the time that So let's measure it before starting the data governance program and overall where we are, maybe level 1 or level 2, if you're not started something, and then let's see how can you move forward further, and then measure against the standard basically.
Right.
So
And you mentioned about the levels, right? So from what I understand, the basic idea is that you have all these levels, and it really depends on the number, depending on the maturity model that you're using. So, like you said, some have four, some have five or six. So it really depends. That's not that relevant. What I think the takeaway is that as one increases in maturity levels, and you're gradually adopting a new stage, basically the rewards increase, right? So the overall value and impact, productivity, quality, and overall capabilities increase while the risks and the waste decrease.
That's true. Um, that is the means, as you go up in the chain, you're not only reducing the risk, but also I think the one point I would mention is you also increase the efficiency of the team.
Mm,
Mostly people consider data governance as a risk reduction technique in the organization. And I also wrote a blog and Forbes about it, that it's not only a technique to reduce your risk in maybe in decision making of that, as well as but how can you use data governance to improve the productivity of the team? Then the team is maybe your data analytics team, your data science team, and that is where we are working towards, like, it's a defensive technique as well as an offensive technique. Offensive in the sense that how can your data science, data engineering can gain in knowledge, information, how can you break silos using data governance? So there are various techniques you can use to improve that productivity of the team as well as reduce the risk, of course, because you're building the trust in the data, so that reduces the risk.
that's a very good point. And Shara, what have you noticed in terms of where do companies usually average um, for the most part? Have you seen any trends? Are they all starting at that level one when you're engaging with them? Are they farther along?
So I think that there's a very clear emerging pattern is there. Like if you go to the mortgage, finance, those kind of company, there you will find them somewhere above level three, because of I think they are doing some sort of data governance, mostly in terms of the quality, because they really focus quite a bit on quality of the data, because the data for them is everything. Like say for example, insurance companies or the financial sector, they are comparatively better than, let's say,
Hmm.
healthcare sector. Healthcare sector do not focus that much on data quality. They are fragmented in various sector, as well as their data literacy, which is like the definitions and the terms. They are also very comparatively to financial sector, they are immature. Again, it depend upon the company to company, they can be up, but as a overall industry wise, you will see less. And if you go to the
Right.
tech sector, which is most of like the technology companies like Amazon or IBM, like the major big companies, as well as a lot of the mid-sized to the large companies as well in the tech sector, you will see that they do everything, but they are so fast and agile that they have the practices in place, but they're not documented. They are not, so they can get up very quickly as soon as
Hmm.
they put their governance framework in place, and they get up very quickly. While in healthcare, it will take a long time. Financial is comparatively above level, and they are defining more and more mature. So that's kind of like three industry we serve quite a bit, and we see a quite a bit pattern in those industries in the
Got it.
maturity.
We do have a question from Lalith here, who is asking if you measure maturity by data object or as a whole.
Um, so not as a by specific data object, you see as a by departments or as a whole. But object is a very like
Too
not like, okay,
granular.
how's my say compliance how's my say inventory analysis report is doing. That is not, that's a quality assessment of it. That report that can be the part of, like if you have a process in place to measure the quality of the report, that is a question which comes to a maturity model. Maturity model is an overall aspect of it, but you can go it by department level, because the large organization does not have it. Like a very large organization may have
Right.
multiple company silos in that,
Right.
and the data itself can be the different maturity model, the different departments of that.
And sometimes I've seen it even by data domain. So by like the customer data, product, legal, whatever, how
Yes.
you want to split your data governance program as well.
Yes, exactly. So if you split your data governance program by domain, horizontally or vertically, whatever you want to do it, that way also you can you can configure it. But that means that you have done the one basic part. You have dissected your data by domain.
Hmm.
that is a one part of the, at least the people understand that they have to dissect the data by domain. If you're not dissected, that means that you're level 2.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Shara, let me know. You mentioned the IBM and the Gartner, and there's definitely a few other maturing models out there, like Oracle has one, and then there's all these other more obscure ones, let's say, like Dataflux, Kalido, um, and there's some free ones, like Stanford has a famous one that they've built on their own. Quite a few. There's quite a few to choose from. Tell me a little bit about the Oval Edge maturity model. How really it's different from some of these?
So I think when we thought about this maturity model, we thought about like the actions you can take. So the objective is that when we design this, I said, okay, the first thing we design is like, okay, where we are in terms of the maturity model, but how can we move ahead with the, it's a very practical approach to it, as well as like there is a roadmap assigned aligned with it. So for example, as soon as you measure yourself that you realize you are at level 2, we give you the ability to do list, which is okay,
Mm.
do this, and you will move to level 3, and then you have another checklist, and then you move to level 4. So it's a mechanism which is a step-by-step approach to keep moving ahead. But as for the measurement is obviously overall, so that means you have done all the steps. But if you do these steps, you will eventually move to level 4 and level 5, and that is the way we have implemented. So it's a again, I want to describe a little bit in detail on that part, is that level 1 is that you are unaware. So you may be doing a lot of things, but you're just unaware about that there is an existence of the data or exist into it.
Hmm.
The level 2 is something that you become aware. Aware means that you need to take some actions about the data governance program. You have started working of maybe creating a committees, put together buying a tool or something. You started having taking some initiatives into that, and
Right.
you are going into the area which becomes the data. Basically, the you comes at the level 2,
But
and the
still
level,
reactive.
yeah, it's kind of reactive. When you understand that there is a need for doing it, and you took some action, and you kind of start, at least if you are measuring it, that means it's the right thing to do. That means that you will consider the level 2 there. Then comes to the level 3, which means defined. That means that now we have defined our rules of the play. So I generally consider data governance as our constitution, like, so as a country gets established, right? So for example, like, imagine Afghanistan right now, there are no rules in place, and it's very hard to govern. They're trying to put together some rules and technique. So
Yeah.
but in US, the rules has been established 200 years ago in the form of constitution. So let's put some rules of engagement. Let's put how people are going to collaborate. What are the things we are going to measure? What are things we're going to do in terms of data governance? What do you mean when you say trust the data? What do you mean by definition? So we put the rules of engagement together that we consider as defined. That means we have established all the best practices. We kind of understood. We suppose it can change, but at least we have defined it, this one. So that's the level 3. And then comes down the implementation part. If we have implemented this, all the rules of engagement, that means we have put together the processes in place. Maybe we are implementing all the data governance program. That means we have tools to enable all the program, as well as we have a lineage to go down the pipe and see where the data is coming from. Is it the good quality? We have a data governance quality improvement life cycle is in place. That means people are reporting the data quality issues. They're finding the problem. They're solving it. You have a place of standardization in place, so that the one definition remains one definition of that. There are not multiple definition of a specific KPIs, so that people, when they look at the KPI, they understand what they are looking at. So those come as the implemented part. And the level 5 is generally considered as optimized. That means that you are taking the processes in place, and then you're optimizing those processes further and further to basically gain more competitive advantage in that. So for example, like your data governance is kind of automatic fashion. So you're improving your processes to further optimize, so they take less time to create it. So data lineage is automatic. Everything is kind of become a lot of automation is in place. You're not spending a lot of time in doing it, and then whatever the processes you put together, you're optimizing each and every process. That makes to the level 5. Like, that's the objective we are putting together. Again, it's hard to get to the level 5 because of that means you're continuously optimizing it. But as
Right.
soon as you start optimization of that, you can get to the level 5, and then you can keep improving it. That means you have established best practices in place. You have a data literacy program, data quality program, access management program. That means the access management has gone from IT to the business side. That means you do not no longer, like, the role of engagement is properly defined. If there's a PII data, then you know that who's going to approve my PII data. If I need access to PII data because of, say, I'm doing a project for compliance, I need access for it, right? Or I'm doing a salary analysis, that how to do something, that I need a confidential data. I may need it, but there is a rule of engagement is defined that if you need access to the confidential data like salary, there's a HR person need to approve it, or he need to monitor it, or he or she need to monitor it, that where we are. So those kind of rule of engagements are defined properly and implemented at level 4, and when we are optimizing it at level 5.
That's wonderful, and I think there are very few companies that are at that level 5, at least not yet, and it usually takes a few years to go from level 1 all the way to level 4. And mind you, level 5, that's an even bigger jump.
I see that it's a 2-year journey from level going from 2 to 5 or 4.5-ish. Again, 5 is something that you always want to achieve to it, but at least if everything is done right at the right, you put enough emphasis on it, at least it will take a year to go there. But we generally see it's a 2-year journey
Right.
to put together. And again, as you say, that you're going by domain of the data. So all the data is governed. It's very difficult, but are you governing at least your key metrics and key KPIs? Are you governing at least key data points, the master
Mhm.
data, or the data which is very important for your business? At least start governing it.
Mhm.
For example, at least your balance sheets is governed. So that is the key critical element of the data. At least the PII data is governed, right?
Right.
Because of this compliance reason. So these are the couple of the data which you should do it. And that can be at the level 4 and 5, while other data can be at level 2 or level 3 as well, because you don't have enough time and resources to govern them properly.
Right. And Lalit confirmed that he was actually referring to the domain, not the object itself. So it's just a
Okay.
different definition there that he was using.
See,
We
that
have
is
a
the real problem with the data governance, that when you talk about it, we see the live example that how the confusion starts.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even people working within data governance, they might have different definitions. And we see this often. People working in the same company, different departments, or even in the same department, they're using the same terms, but with different definitions. So definitely that's one of the reasons why you need data governance, why you need a business glossary, why you need a data catalog. So if you're not investing into these tools, invest in these tools. We have a question from Atif here. Azad, is there any specific way to identify gaps among the different levels of maturity models?
Um, so the first thing is that take this questionnaire, fill it up, and then understand where we are, right? So for level 2, level 3, level 4, like you will get a clear picture there where we are. Then we soon will come up with we do have step by steps, but we have not published the blog. Then we do have, obviously there are gaps. That's why you are level 2, right? So we have a step by step approach that, okay, takes these steps. Like, for example, I can give you some examples of that. Is that say access management, right? Right now in your organization, the maximum thing you might be having is that, okay, whenever I need access to the data, I may need to go to reach out to IT and say, hey, I need access to the data. He will ask you, why so? And say, my manager said so, and you get the access, right? That's
Hmm.
the real idea is.
Hmm.
But your manager said so is not the right answer. There may be a confidential information in that, because because you're done working on a project, and that does not mean that. So that is I consider this as a level 2 implementation technique, because you do not have classified the data yet, right? There is no the rules of engagements are defined. So when you say, okay, no, let's create a rule around it. The rule around it, that means that, let's classify the data. If it is a confidential, if it is a privacy data, means PII data, or the PHI for healthcare companies, or any data which is say top secret or something, it need to go to a different approval process. Means if this is a confidential HR related, needs to go to HR for approval, and if it is a PII, let's say the InfoSec need to approve it, and whatever the approval process is, you set together the approval process. For rest of the data, you have access to it if your manager said so, right? So then that means you have defined it. Now, then if your definitions are defined and they're your at least defined it, then if the IT team is following this process, that okay, I need, because this is a PII data, I need approval of this person. If they follow it, that means that at least you are level. If they follow it, then still you consider level 3. But if you have automation is in place, that means you have a automation. For example, you have a Overledge product and which you put together and kind of approval process and everything is in place. That means that now if I'm requesting the access for the data, which is a PII data, and it goes to the InfoSec for approval, it knows out of the box that yes, this is a PII data. I need to get this approval. That means that you are going at level 4. That means that yes, there is an initial gap. Now I'm going at 4. And then you can improve it in the sense like I see that this particular unit is always need this data which is PII, because it belongs to the InfoSec unit. Why they need approval process for go through it, because they always get approved. So since these are the people, let's give them all the time, let's create them a different role, let's improve it so that we don't have to create this process moving back and forth the approval processes. Give them access to the PII data and make sure they have clearances. Or sometimes like in government sector, they always have those PII and the clearance. And this is like in government, you always have those kind of clearances to get this. That means they are level 5 or level 4 or 5, But I don't think they are optimized too much. But they are definitely level 5, 4 because they have proper rules of engagement in place and they're implemented. Are they optimizing it or not? That come down, I have no idea.
Right.
So that's how I would define that.
So Atif, I think the first step is also go check out this article, and thank you so much, Michael, for putting it up here and putting the link to it. And you can just go check it out right here. It's chock full of good information, and you can take the assessment as well. So it's really, really great stuff to guide yourself. And one thing that I really like about your assessment, Sharad, let's put it this way. So most maturity models out there, they offer a description saying, well, if you're a level 2 means this, that, and the other. This is what level 3 reads like. And then you have to deduce, well, in order for me to then jump to level 3, it means that I have to do this. I'm deducing, I'm inferring based on what I'm reading about level 3 and understanding, well, I don't have that. So it means I somehow need to get there and do that. But with Overledge, you have that checklist, right? After you do the assessment, it tells you, well, you are at this level, but here's the checklist, the to-do list to move up a level.
Exactly.
So I think that's a great benefit. And yes, it does sound like a great data process maturity that Sharad is describing. I agree. Now we have quite a few questions popping up here, so let me try and take a few. There's one from Caesar, and he's asking if it's necessary to evaluate people who are directly involved on data governance. If so, how often? How should you evaluate them? And what kind of questions are essential? And Caesar, I wonder maybe if you can clarify, but are you maybe talking about the skills that these individuals would have, or maybe how they are faring in their data governance, data stewardship roles? Maybe you can clarify that. But I know some models, they might have a people component to see, well, do you have the roles and responsibilities in place? Could be, some of the questions that you can address. So maybe you're referring to that. Sharad, I don't know if there's something that you like to add.
The one thing I realize, because we are implementing a lot of places data governance, what we have seen is that people pay a lot of importance on the people. They should, but not that much on the process. If the process is crystal clear, people can be trained upon it, right? But we see now, we consider that like most of the data governance model, as well as the thing, is not taking into the consideration that people are people, they can be trained into the data governance role as well as data stewardship role, right? And data stewards are not a full-time position. It's a part-time position, in my opinion, right? Means somebody from the business side is actually who's more knowledgeable about is contributing towards data governance stewardship, and he or she is working towards that, right? So since it is a part-time role, you cannot have a hey, this needs to have a complete skill set to kind of do the data governance. That is a non-starter generally, and that's one of the reasons that a lot of data governance programs fail because of that reason.
Mm-hmm.
Our objective should be as a data governance manager, or the chief data officer, is that okay, these are the people, this is the training program, this is how we need to train them, and once they get trained into the data governance stewardship or data, the data ownership sometime as well. Once they get trained upon this, then how they can perform at that, their desired action. This is mostly like, putting the proper definitions, descriptions, and how to they go about it. Uh, Process is very important, and the process needs to be crystal clear. As I say, it need to be defined, it need to be well documented, and need to be, sometimes that is why it need to be productized in the sense that, can we have a tool doing all the work for them? Say, for example, I take in order to explain data governance, let's take an example of accounting, right? Anywhere in the world, you will not use if a caveman comes to the earth, or a smartest person on the earth comes here and say, hey, can you go, somebody took the money, somebody took the, give it the money. You will never ever do it like credits and debits, you do it, right? You will just say, okay, these people took the money from me, and these people, you will not record the way we are doing it, but it becomes a best practice across the world. It took us years and years, and have a lot of advantage to it, but it's not a commonly known technique anybody will think that way. So it becomes a practice now, and that's the practice have its own advantage, because we are using it, but not everybody have to be trained on that process. There are accounting degrees, we go through that, and that's why we do the credit and debits that particular way. I remember that I failed many times in accounting principle because I couldn't do the credit and debit correctly. It's a complex, because I'm a math person, so for me it looked like it's a complex thing, counting. But so those are the process is. Now we think that everybody, sometimes we as a data governance manager, we think that everybody know those processes are. No, nobody knows those processes. You have to train individuals how to do the processes, and the training sometimes it's complex. The best thing to do the training is create a to-do list for them and give the to-do list. Okay, these are your to-do lists. You have to put the business descriptions or the description on those fields by tomorrow or by day after tomorrow or whatever. So you give them the to-do list, which is very specific. You give them, they will do it. But if you ask them, hey, create a committee and you do this particular part of me, and you make a consensus within the organization, and you give me that business definition, you're not getting anywhere, because then it's required skills and more. That is the part of the data governance manager or their advisors to kind of create the processes in place.
Right. Thank you so much, Sharad. Let me take a few more questions, as there are lots popping up, and there's one that Michael put up that we missed from VJ. What is the definition of data governance maturity here? Is it about data privacy or data management or data lineage analysis methods? Would you care to?
I think
mention?
we put there, it covers all of those things.
Yeah.
And that is why we are measuring. If you download the template, you will see that it have like 5 or 6 ways you measure it. For every area, you will measure it, and you may be at level 2 at one area, and you may be level 3 at another area. So it covers all aspects of the data governance. We generally define it lineage as a part of the literacy aspect of it, the base foundation of it. So we define it the literacy, quality, access management. These are the 3 areas, and the privacy, of course, should come as well as the overall. So those are the areas we define it, in terms of managing the data governance program overall.
Right. We have a comment here from Pam, and Pam, your name is not showing up for some reason. Maturity can and should be measured by each data discipline that an organization has focused in on increasing maturity practices. However, the important thing to know is that the maturity varies across each of those disciplines and ultimately the roll up organization wide. So thank you so much for that comment, Pam. Now, I'm going to take another question here. This one from Rohit. Hi, great topic. Thanks for organizing this. Do you see data governance maturity being driven more by regulatory requirements or because the businesses truly understand data, that data is an asset that is largely unexplored?
So
What do you think is the driver here?
I see a very clear trend in this one is mostly people are starting data governance program because of the compliance reason,
Hmm.
right? Especially if you go to the banking sector, because they have a BCBS, I think. Yeah.
Right.
So they
And
have
healthcare.
regulation,
Yeah.
and in healthcare also there is a HIPAA, but there are regulations in place. So mostly companies starting from the compliance reason. But as they are evolving, they are realizing the value of like how much valuable it is. And as they are optimizing it, they are realizing the value and they are going towards more of the business value of it. So sometime only few times when they do not start because of a compliance reason, they start from because they realize they have to do large merger and acquisition. Their strategy is around that area. So better to do make sure your data is in place. So then when you merge with another company, you can kind of consolidate those efforts. Those are also areas, but and this is the clear kind of a trend is there is that start from the compliance and then go towards the more business orientation.
Hmm.
Also, it gives you the more quick ROI as well because you reduce the risk of compliance, you have a quick ROI, and then you can build a business case further down for the business level. They know we are creating a maturity and trust in the data, and that create a better trustworthiness, right? And then the idea is here is that if you do for compliance reasons, so most of the time this comes down to a real execution of it is if you do for compliance reason without being aware that you're doing for compliance reason, right? So for example, you started data governance and you say no, you need to document all aspect of it, and let's say you document it in a spreadsheet and you put it in a spreadsheet somewhere, nobody is looking into it other than the compliance auditor. That is, you're not actually doing for compliance reason. You're doing it, but you are not leveraging that value further in the business. And let's say that you didn't put in Excel, but you put it those in a overledge and kind of like popularize this
Hmm.
to everybody. It costs you a little bit of money, but in this time, you did it is you leverage the value of the work you did and with everyone in the organization. So now you suddenly see a great level of collaboration is happening. The KPIs are there because of the tool is the right tool to use it for that.
Right.
So sometimes that is where the tool comes. Like the implementation techniques are very important when you go from the business versus compliance. Compliance is always okay, get it done, and because I don't care really,
Hmm.
because I need to get it done. While
Hmm.
business is about okay, how the adoption need to grow, So that is where more about adoption, everything comes to it. Comes
Right.
to that part.
So for the most part, it does start with the stick, but then companies are really getting the taste of the carrot, and they understand the benefits of data governance. Is that it's not just about ensuring that regulatory compliance; it brings so many other benefits. So they continue investing into it, and they want to invest more and progress and mature their model. Um, we have another question here from VJ, and it's a quite interesting one. He's mentioning with increasing complexity in an organization by continuously delivering new applications or re-architecting existing applications, do we need to continuously redefine and reassess data governance maturity models? Or can it go lower from level 3 to level 2 anytime because of this?
It's a very amazing question. And yes, means it can go to lower level if you are not doing it, because especially you are doing a re-architecting the application and not thinking about the data governance upfront, it will go down. And I don't think you should really focus on the measurement, but the process of the data governance is in place, right? So once you
Hmm.
define the data governance processes for level 2 to level 3, suppose you came to the level 4 there, that means you have defined and implemented the process. So when you're re-architecting the application, are you following those processes? If you're following those processes, then you will not fall apart. But the most of the time, what happens that since I'm doing re-architecting, it's $1 million project. I need to get it done now. I don't care about the governance. This happens a lot of time. And then the governance become after the fact, and then you will go down there. So it happens to like all the time when you're re-architecting or rebuilding the application. There's a lot of pressure on the team to do it faster and quicker because of the money involved and the value involved in that. We keep track of it, and then suddenly if it happens that suddenly one day you will realize because we are not following the process, either you hit by a compliance penalty. We have seen a lot of penalties coming out these days, as well as you really hit a loss of because you migrated a new application, the report didn't migrated. Somebody make the decision on the report with the old system in place. The new system was not connected to the old report, and they took the decision there, and then
Right.
the wrong decision being taken, and then now you're after the fact you're discovering it. So those
Right.
again, the downstream system, what the system is going to be affected because you are re-architecting all this, the part of the data governance program.
Right. And to add to this, let's remind ourselves that data governance is really a program. It's not a project. It doesn't have that end date. We're not just investing into once and then, okay, everything is done for and we can forget about it. We need to continuously invest in it. Things are continuously changing. Like you mentioned, your architecture changes, the regulations change, your data changes, even by its nature of just sitting in your database without taking care of it. It can just go, can decay. So its quality changes. So you need to continuously invest in data governance. And yes, I think it's valuable to do an assessment every now and then. It really depends on that cycle. And I see a LinkedIn user mention this as well. Yes, maturity practices should be measured on a cycle that makes sense to the business. So definitely take that evaluation and measurement maybe every 6 months, every year. It really depends also what level you are at, but see where you stand once that happens. Okay, time for a few more questions, Sharad. And we have a few that are coming up here that it's on a topic that we've addressed in previous shows with you. There's one from Chaitanya. How do you get buy-in and executive support for data governance and have them realize the value indirectly, directly to the business? And there's another one similar from Pedro. How to align the data governance implementation programs with the need for digital transformations that require speed and agility. Data governance can sometimes scare the C-level of a company. How do you sell data governance inside a company? And as I mentioned, we do have a show with Sharad that we've addressed this on how to create a business case that really wins over that C-level. So please check it out. But I don't know if you want to add anything now, Sharad.
I will. I think this is a very crucial part of the business because we see that we as we are implementing data governance in various organizations, sometimes we feel that executive sponsorship is not happening, and take an example of it, like just to understand what do you mean by executive sponsorship. Say for example, you need to put the definitions of or some sort of a like, okay, what exactly those data points are, because they are going to the data warehouse. It's a key data point. But this team is really busy. Those team who have built this platform is really busy in doing another level of analytics, because that analytics is funding the program, right? And since they are busy in funding the program, and this person is, so the data governance team is asking to put the definitions of whatever you put it there, while that program, because their head is asking them to create another analytics or another analytics, right? So
Yeah.
that is the real dilemma comes down to the pressure. Now the analytics, the VP of analytics or somebody who's basically funding the program say, no, we have to deliver more value because this is where, forget about that. Like this is generally happens that they will say, hey, forget about the governance aspect because this is like we can put that afterwards. They will not say no, they will say that we will do afterwards, right?
Right.
Because the problem is that governance is always, they're going after from the compliance mindset. You do not go by a compliance mindset, you embed that in within the process of them. You embed the nature of the data governance as a part of the process of analytics team, right? So for example, I will give you just an example of that, is that when embedding is that, like, when they are even discovering it, the data, when they are doing the analysis of the project work, can they put the notes there? Like, why are they doing it? So do you have the tools and processes in place which allow you to collect the notes when they are even building it? Even they are building the analytics, what the information they got from business users. Like, just like, if you see, like, a lot of people might be software developer here, that, let how do you do it in Jira, or ServiceNow? Like, how you keep collecting all this information. So that means you're collecting this information in somewhere, and then you can put it in a proper format. So how do you embed this in the system? It's very important, and that is where you can take that information, whatever that you have collected during the project work, and put it this back to this one. It becomes much more easier because all the information is in place. They don't have to put this information once again another time. They have to put the definition, because during the project work it has been implemented. So the data governance need to think also from the how the actual development or implementation of the data analytics program, mostly the analytics this is where the data governance really comes more of the time, how that is happening. And if you can weave in your processes within their processes, it would be much more easier rather than after the fact doing it.
Absolutely. Now, there are a lot of comments that are coming in about how data governance is indeed a program. It doesn't have an end date. So thank you everybody for nailing down that message there. So there's quite a few that are mentioning that. So we have another question here that I want to take from, let me just quickly find it. Where are you? From Orphan. And he's wondering if you can help put these terms in order while implementing data governance. And I assume if we can prioritize what should be done first. So data model, data catalog, data lineage, data mining, data warehousing. Do you have a recommendation, Sharad, on which one of
Definitely.
these should a company start with?
So when you say data catalog, so data catalog is a combination of data model, data lineage, data, right? Data mining, data warehousing is a, so when you say data warehousing is a actual physically you can moving the data and putting into data warehouse, and then you might do some data mining on top of that, right? You should not do data mining in your source application. You should always do data mining in the data warehouse. Mining means that you are really getting insights from it, right? That means data mining. So when you comes to the data model, data lineage, this is and if you implement data catalog, if you buy say overlay data catalog, the data models are automatic, data lineage is also automatic. So you can build it, and that becomes the foundation for your governance program. So of course you need a data warehouse to find insights into the data. You cannot use a data catalog to find insights. You need some sort of a processing power. Data catalog does not have like their own processing power to kind of do and analyze the data. You need some third party, like some data warehouse. Like there are so many vendors out there which provide warehousing capability, and they do data mining on top of that. Does it answer the question? Right? Yeah.
I think so. Thank you. And Michael posted a link here saying that you guys have a guide available for download, a white paper on implementing data governance that I think could reveal those steps that one needs to take in order to implement data governance. So thank you, Michael, for that. Now, Adam is wondering, he sees data governance as the umbrella under which all other aspects of data is covered. So data quality, data management, stewardship, lineage, glossaries, etc. The how and the why of doing things in a consistent and auditable manner. Any thoughts on this?
In fact, yesterday only I was discussing with one of our colleagues is that how different companies are defining data governance differently. So
Yeah.
let me tell you that how we define it, and then I will tell you a little bit how other people are doing it. So we generally take the DAMA's overarching word of data governance means that it includes data quality, data literacy, which means business glossary, means like data catalog. Every part of the data literacy is a part of that, right? And then data access management, access governance, right? How can you give access from the IT layer to the business layer, and how you can do it? And in order to these three programs to run, there is also you need to set up your committees, you need to find inventory of data sources, you need to identify the data stewards. In order to execute that, you need that. as well as you need a support from your IT, from auditing perspective, as well as from compliances perspective, as well as encryptions and all those things. You need to make sure security is the key part of that. So that's the overarching data governance keyword. If you go to, for example, let's say again, Snowflake is a big company which is growing very rapidly in data warehousing space. If you ask them data governance, they will call data access management as data governance, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you go to the Gartner, they generally consider data literacy as data governance only. Like they have a data quality different, data governance different. Data governance for them is data literacy aspect of it. So they consider it differently. Although Dataversity is also going a little bit more on that aspect of it. So there are various people and organizations call data governance differently. For us, it's an overarching word, means it includes all aspects, just like DAMA does it. While other companies and organizations use it differently, but that's how the industry is. I don't know if we can change it, but we can understand it.
Right. Thank you so much for that clarification, Sharad.
Thank you.
We have another great question from VJ here. Many a time, customers asking to measure the cost of the benefits of data governance programs in terms of that dollar added values. How do we come up with consistent, realistic cost benefit model?
So I'm doing especially a show on this specific in Dataversity conference. But how do you measure the ROI? So I think the measurement of the ROI should not be about the data governance. It should be about the data programs you want to do it, right? Say, for example, you want to do a digital transformation. So what is the ROI of digital transformation? A certain percentage of that should go towards the data governance. Just like if you say, hey, what is the ROI of a cell phone? Cell phone is a technology which enable you to do so many things. Without that, it is not possible. Or you say one specific app. It's an overall value proposition of the data. So if you do not want to use data at all for your strategic advantage, then there is no point of doing the governance. Then your ROI is very less because they're only doing for compliance reason. But if you want to use data for a strategic advantage, like Amazon is using it, so everywhere, so for example, if you as soon as you order a component, a product, that when it's going to be delivered. There's a lot of data analysis is happening behind the scene in order to give you that specific date. That is a data product which comes out of it. So there is if that number is wrong, your trust will go down, your everything will be not right? So sometimes it happens that they promise to deliver on Tuesday, but ended up Wednesday, Thursday, sometime early as well. So whether early or late, it's not right for your data governance program. That means the quality of your analytics is not right. The quality of the prediction is not right. So that is where the overall you have to tie your data governance as a part of your analytics, as a part of your strategy, and then put one component of that. One component is, you can say data warehouse. One component is data governance, and then overall value is this, and then you divide that. That's how we should do it.
Thank you so much. Now, as we're approaching an end here, I want to see if there's really any other questions that you'd like us to take. I'd like to remind people to go check out this article that Sharad posted on ovaledge.com on their blog section. So you just go up to the resources blog, and this is one of the many wonderful articles and insightful articles that you'll be able to find. The great thing about this is it doesn't just talk about what data governance maturity models are and offers you quite a few examples, but you're also able to download the maturity model questionnaire, and which is basically an assessment to see where you stand, what level your company is at, what level your data governance program is at, and then really see what actionable steps you should take in order to progress, in order to mature your program. So please go check it out. It has a bunch of very useful information. All right. Now, I'm sure Sharad will be happy to keep on answering questions as well. And I know in the past, he's always been okay if you are following him on LinkedIn because he's posting good stuff there too. And please follow Oval Edge as well. And I want to thank Michael and Shilpi for posting different links to different articles that you guys are offering, which are all valuable and very, very useful information. We have time, I think, for one more question, and let me just scour through this. And there's one that I'm seeing here. Does this model reference the CMMI? And I'm wondering if you're referring to the Oval Edge model.
It has some reference to that, but is not directly linked with CMMI level. It's a CMMI is a different organization, does it differently, and I don't think they certify or do anything like that. But it's a different way. Oval Edge is a self assessment. You can self assess it. There's no certification is happening at that level.
Right. Thank you, and thank you, Irfan. I'm glad that you found it insightful. Okay, a couple more questions. It's hard to not pop them up on the screen when I see them. From VJ, thanks Shara for the insight. Data governance programs are usually enterprise level initiative, and is being driven by a centralized team. Should we propose to decentralize the team and connect to individual program?
There is obviously there is a advantage to have a decentralized team rather than a very centralized team across. So we've seen that a lot of data governance program fail because there's one centralized team and one big massive effort for the bigger organization. So if you can decentralize a department size of it, and then from them you create a consolidation, that is a better way of at least getting success at initial level, and then you consolidate every part of it. But just like you create a bigger country like US, right? So there's a one state was formed, and then you consolidate and created their own constitution, becomes easier than just going, no, we are going big bang, and then just say this is the rules apply for every state. Every state have their own laws, own regulations, and you just cannot change it. It's a people how to do it. So that's one of the reasons that massive, bigger organization initiatives fails, because it does not take so many people into the consideration. So defragment, like decentralized nature, is definitely better. But there is a still need for some organization-wide effort to connect those decentralized team individually as well.
Yeah, that's a good analogy with the states. And I would also have to add, it really depends on the size of and the complexity of the organization. Of course, we're talking about multinationals here and big organizations, but like Sharad mentioned, it's really great to have that maybe a federated model where you have a central body that's providing these rules and standards, but then you also have independent implementations that are really more keen towards whatever that individual department or like branch of that company is really focused on, right? I mean, there's big companies that they go into multiple sectors, one in healthcare, another one in like the automaker and technology and research. So you can't really apply exactly the same things to everybody, but you can still, as a central unit, provide a framework for them to follow in a similar way, and meet on whatever data overlaps. Right. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining in today. Please, again, check out ovaledge.com. Go on their blog, check out all the wonderful resources that they have provided. And if you do have any more questions, please, keep asking them even after the show has ended. And please share this with others that you might think that are interested in this topic, because data governance is important. Mature models are a great tool to get you there, to see where you are, to see where you can go and improve. So don't be shy and invest in data governance. Thank you so much, everybody, and looking forward to seeing you again next week.
Thank you, George. Thank you so much for the show.
Bye, everybody.